Be sure to hit that like button, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to embark on this journey with us as we unveil our latest tales. That night unfolded in ways I could never have imagined, forever altering my perception of the world around me. The journey of my career, the decisions I made, and the man who had stood by my side for more than 10 years loomed large in my mind. Yet, there are moments that catch you off guard, revealing themselves like a masterfully orchestrated symphony, every note resonating with a profound chord deep inside your soul. The evening began like any other, cloaked in the familiar shadows of routine. The company's annual gala had just concluded, and the city lights sparkled like stars through the expansive glass windows of the rooftop venue. The laughter of my colleagues lingered in the air, a haunting melody as I stepped into the cool embrace of the night, relief washing over me as I escaped the clamor behind me. The sharp pinch of my heels served as a constant reminder of the endless hours spent on my feet, wearing a smile that masked the fatigue beneath. As I prepared to leave, I glanced back at him, Dominic Reeves, the man who had been my boss for the last 12 years. With silver threading through his temples and a wardrobe that spoke of meticulous taste, he moved with the assuredness of a man who had forged his own empire from nothing. At 61, he exuded an air of composure and control, yet there was an unsettling shift in his expression that night, hinting at unspoken turmoil. The night pulsed with energy, a celebration that lingered in the air long after the last guest had departed. He moved closer, hands buried deep in his pockets, the familiar aura of command around him gently dimmed by the warm embrace of the streetlights. It was a moment suspended in time. Yet I must confess, these events don't truly captivate me. A soft chuckle escaped my lips. Hilarious. Each year, you glide through them effortlessly. It's just business, he said, tilting his head slightly toward me, his eyes glinting with a mix of indifference and intrigue. Yet, there you were, reveling in the moment, a spark of joy illuminating your presence. I let my shoulders drop, a silent gesture of indifference. It seems I've mastered the art of deception. He released a soft chuckle, and for a fleeting moment, we lingered in a serene silence, the world around us fading away. The city pulsed with life, yet in that fleeting moment, it was only us, standing shoulder to shoulder, far removed from the rigid confines of the office. Then emerged the words I had never anticipated. "I'm not ready to go home yet," he confessed, his voice laced with an unspoken longing. "Would you be so inclined to share a drink with me?" My heart raced as uncertainty gripped me. It was a familiar rhythm for us, those late-night conversations that lingered long after the sun had set, strategy meetings that bled into the twilight hours, where ideas flowed as freely as the night air. Yet, this sensation was unlike any other. His tone held an unspoken weight, a subtle intensity that sent a thrill racing through my veins. "Absolutely." At last, the words escaped my lips. "What holds you back?" We strolled down the street, leaving behind the dazzling lights of downtown, venturing into the hushed corners of the city. He guided me into a cozy lounge, where the dim lighting cast a warm glow, and the smooth notes of jazz wrapped around us like a comforting embrace. It was a realm where time stood still, a sanctuary shielded from the relentless pace of the outside world. As we nestled into a shadowy corner booth, he loosened his tie, a rare and telling gesture that sent a shiver of anticipation through the air. His gaze pierced through the air, locking onto mine with an intensity that suggested he was uncovering layers of my soul for the very first time. "You've been with the company a long time," he remarked, the amber liquid in his glass swirling like the secrets of the past. 12 long years. I gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Have you ever found yourself lost in thought, imagining how life could have unfolded had you taken a different road?" His question struck me like a bolt from the blue. "Do you truly want to know if I harbor any regrets about the choices I've made?" He shook his head, a storm of thoughts swirling within him. "No regrets." A spark of curiosity ignited within me. "Have you ever pondered the paths left unexplored?" I released a long, measured breath. "At some point, I believe we all find ourselves in that place. Yet, I have always held the conviction that each choice we make, every twist and turn we encounter, guides us precisely to the destination we are destined to reach." A smile crept across his face, a flicker of something deeper igniting within him. That perspective holds a depth of wisdom. For the first time in years, we engaged in a deep conversation, unraveling the threads of our past. It's not a tale of work, nor of deadlines or quarterly reports. It's a story about life itself. He recounted the tale of his formative years, the relentless battles fought to forge the company, and the heavy sacrifices that shadowed each step of the journey. I unveiled fragments of my soul, the aspirations that once ignited my spirit, the pivotal moments that sculpted my very being. Time twisted and faded into an indistinct haze. One drink spiraled into two, then three, each sip pulling me deeper into the night. And in that fleeting moment, as memories danced and laughter echoed, the atmosphere around us transformed, charged with an unspoken tension. An awkward silence hung between us until he reached out, his hand briefly touching mine in a gesture of reassurance. I remained rooted in place. In that fleeting instant, time seemed to freeze, and the world held its breath, teetering on the edge of uncertainty. And then, in a hushed tone, he revealed, "I've never shared this before, but my admiration for you runs deeper than your work alone. Your presence is magnetic, a force that anchors the world amidst the swirling chaos that surrounds us." My heart raced with an urgency that sent a thrill coursing through me. Compliments had often danced around me like fleeting shadows, but this one struck a chord deep within, resonating with an intensity I had never known. It was something deeper, something that cut through the surface and stirred the very essence of truth. It was a profound truth, an undeniable reality. "You've always been the unwavering presence," he continued. Perhaps I lingered too long in the shadows, failing to grasp the weight of what that truly signifies. My throat tightened, a wave of uncertainty crashing over me as I struggled to find the right words. He was more than just my boss. He was a figure I had revered for years, a man whose insights I had cherished more than I was willing to acknowledge. And yet, as I sat there enveloped in the warmth of the dimly lit lounge, my mind drifted far from thoughts of work or professionalism. His gaze pierced through me, revealing a depth of understanding he had never dared to explore until now. I finally uttered the words. I should probably head home, but even as they left my lips, doubt clung to them like a shadow. His gaze lingered on me, a silent assessment that stretched into an eternity, before he finally nodded. "Allow me to guide you on this journey." The streets lay hushed, the city surrendering to the embrace of its late-night pulse. As we approached my building, we hesitated at the entrance, the air thick with unspoken words. "Thank you for tonight," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion, "for truly listening." A smile crept across my face. "The same could be said for you." A moment hangs in the air, thick with uncertainty. In that fleeting moment, with my heart racing and doubt whispering in my ear, I leaned in, just a fraction, just enough to bridge the distance. In that fleeting instant, the universe shrank to just the two of them, as the echoes of the past and the whispers of the future dissolved, leaving only the electric pulse of the present moment. But just as the moment hung in the air, I pulled back, my breath trembling with uncertainty. "Good night, James," I whispered, crossing the threshold, my heart racing as I fought to hold on to my resolve. As the door clicked shut, I leaned against it, my heart racing wildly in my chest. A palpable change had woven itself into the fabric of our connection, and deep within me, a stirring realization took hold. This was merely the dawn of something far greater. The next morning, I stirred awake before dawn, my thoughts ensnared in the haunting echoes of the night before. The intensity of James's gaze pierced through me, his hand radiating warmth against mine, while unspoken words lingered in the charged air between us. For years he had been nothing more than my boss, a figure of authority, cloaked in respect and shrouded in an impenetrable distance. But now, he consumed my thoughts. James, the man who had shed his armor, who had shared his soul with a whisper of vulnerability, who had gazed at me in a way that sent my heart racing. I shook my head, attempting to dispel the swirling thoughts as I poured my morning coffee, the rich aroma filling the air and grounding me in the moment. This was utterly absurd. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy, as if the world itself held its breath. Nothing had happened, yet the weight of anticipation loomed, a palpable tension that hinted at the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Nothing was destined to unfold. As I stepped into the office, an unsettling tension enveloped me, a palpable shift in the very air that surrounded me. I glimpsed him through the transparent barrier of his office, a figure shrouded in mystery. In the midst of his conversation, our gazes collided for the briefest heartbeat, a spark igniting in that fleeting moment. A moment of stillness hung in the air. A moment of doubt lingered in the air. In that fleeting moment, he offered me the faintest of smiles, a secret gesture meant solely for my eyes. A tempest brewed silently beneath my skin, a force waiting to be unleashed. The day slipped away, in a whirlwind of meetings and emails, yet my thoughts wandered restlessly, seeking an escape from the mundane. James's presence was palpable, an electric charge in the air, as he lingered by my desk more often than needed, his gaze locking onto mine for a heartbeat longer than comfortable. As the sun began its descent, a sense of restlessness surged within me. The air outside beckoned, a promise of clarity that I desperately sought. As I emerged onto the small office terrace, the crisp autumn air enveloped me, invigorating my senses. The city throbbed beneath, a cacophony of distant honks and murmurs weaving together in a vibrant tapestry of life. Engrossed in my swirling thoughts, I remained oblivious to the soft creak of the door swinging open behind me. "You've been dodging my presence." James's voice flowed with a calmness that belied the sharp edge lurking beneath. I pivoted, a faint chuckle escaping my lips, barely masking the tension that hung in the air. "Steering clear of you. That's quite the spectacle." He moved in closer, hands buried deep in his pockets, his expression as inscrutable as ever. Could it truly be? With a heavy sigh, I pressed my fingers against my temples, feeling the weight of the world bearing down on me. James, it was last night that everything changed. It was unlike anything I had ever experienced. He completed my thoughts with an intensity that left me breathless. "I understand." I gazed up at him, the man who had been my companion through countless days. Yet, in this instant, he seemed like a stranger. For the first time, I was truly seeing him, the layers peeling away to reveal the essence beneath. "We can't do this," I murmured, the weight of the words pressing down on me, their emptiness echoing in the silence that followed. He fixed his gaze on me, the weight of his scrutiny hanging in the air, before finally releasing a slow, deliberate breath. "You're wondering what lies beneath the surface of my words. This is perilous. It alters everything." "It alters everything," I declared with conviction. "James, you hold the reins here. In a world governed by unyielding rules and unspoken expectations, the air crackles with tension." "I don't care about rules," he interrupted, his voice a low rumble, unwavering and intense. My gaze locked onto him, unblinking. This was not the poised, strategic figure I had come to recognize. This was a different person entirely. A rare moment for someone, free from the burdens of business, control, and responsibility. His thoughts lingered on me. "You're making this more complicated than it needs to be," he said, his voice now laced with a gentler cadence. "Last night, the boundaries of our roles faded away. We were merely two souls adrift in a vast sea of existence. And I believe, deep down, we both sensed it. A spark that ignited between us." I gulped, the weight of the moment settling heavily in my throat. Just because it exists doesn't make it justifiable. He tilted his head, his eyes piercing into mine, as if seeking answers hidden deep within. "And yet, you haven't denied that you feel it as well." I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped me. The truth loomed between us, a weighty presence that was both undeniable and raw. A sensation stirred within me. A feeling I hadn't experienced in years resurfaced. He edged forward, his voice a mere breath in the silence. "Challenge me, and I'll let it go. Last night will fade into oblivion, a shadow lost in the depths of my memory." A desire stirred within me. I longed to utter those words, to break free, to feign that everything could revert to its former state. Yet I chose not to. Uncertainty gripped me, leaving me questioning if I truly desired to take that step. The air around us shimmered with tension, an unseen force drawing us nearer, as if the world had narrowed to just the two of us. My breath caught in my throat as he extended his hand, his fingertips grazing my wrist with a tantalizing lightness. A question, lingering in the air, waiting for an answer, not a demand. For the first time in years, my mind craved silence, a reprieve from the relentless churn of thoughts. I remained right there, refusing to pull away. James's fingertips brushed against the inside of my wrist, igniting a spark that reverberated through my entire being. For years, I had confined myself within the rigid walls of expectation, of who I should be, of the path my career should take, of the milestones dictated by my age. My existence was meticulously crafted, a tapestry woven from threads of predictability and reason. But standing there with James's gaze piercing through me as if I were an enigma waiting to be unraveled, I felt the very walls around us tremble. He lingered in the shadows, his gaze fixed on me, searching for any hint that I craved this as deeply as he did. In that fleeting instant, I made my choice. I exhaled deeply, the air escaping my lungs like a whisper of secrets untold. James, I stand at the edge of uncertainty, unsure of where this path will take us. He offered a faint smile, a flicker of warmth in the shadows of the moment. I don't either. Yet, that doesn't imply we must flee from it. A chilling breeze swept across the terrace, sending a shiver down my spine. He sensed it instantly, shedding his suit jacket and gracefully placing it over my shoulders. The familiar scent of his cologne brought an unexpected sense of calm. Come on, he urged, his gaze fixed on the office door, a silent invitation hanging in the air. We need to escape this place. My heart raced as uncertainty gripped me. Are you saying right now? Why not indeed? His voice danced lightly in the air, yet beneath that playful tone lay a quiet, unyielding resolve. I cast a furtive glance back through the glass doors, the world beyond them, shrouded in mystery. The office buzzed with the electric pulse of the day's end, as bodies flowed through the familiar rhythms of their tasks. Stepping back inside, I could already foresee the unfolding of the night, each moment etched in my mind like a vivid dream waiting to come alive. As I collected my belongings, a heavy silence enveloped me. I would return home, prepare a meal, and sink into solitude, wrestling with the shadows of my thoughts, all the while feigning that nothing had shifted in the fabric of my life. Yet, an undeniable shift had occurred. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, a spark ignited within me, urging me to seize the moment and not let this chance slip away. "All right," I declared, my voice surprisingly steady, a calmness washing over me like a tide. "Let's embark on this journey." We found ourselves in a secluded, softly illuminated restaurant just a few blocks away, a hidden gem where the music whispered and the waiters communicated in muted tones. James uncorked a bottle of wine, and as the first sip slid down my throat, a wave of warmth washed over me, coaxing my tension to dissolve. With a deliberate clink, I set my glass down, my gaze piercing through the dim light. "So, what exactly are we doing here?" He reclined, his gaze fixed on me, a familiar enigmatic expression etched across his face, just as it always was in the office. But tonight, an unsettling presence lingered in the air. To be completely honest, he swirled his wine, mesmerized as the deep red liquid danced in the light, casting fleeting shadows that whispered secrets of the night. All I longed for was a place with you, a sanctuary where we could shed our masks and be our true selves. I swallowed hard. Imagine. His gaze locked onto mine. That final night held a significance beyond words. The words fell like a stone between us, dense and impossible to ignore. I parted my lips, a whirlwind of thoughts racing through my mind as I sought the perfect words to escape into the air. But for once, I craved the thrill of recklessness. I felt the weight of each word, hesitant to dissect them before they escaped my mouth. I released a breath, a whisper of tension escaping into the air. It truly did. A fleeting shadow danced across his features. A sense of relief washed over him perhaps, but there was an undercurrent of something far more profound lurking beneath the surface. Our conversation stretched into the night, each word weaving a deeper connection between us. It's not about the grind, the obligations, or the weight of the world. It's about the connection between us. I revealed secrets that had remained locked away in the shadows of my mind for far too long. For so long, I had devoted every ounce of my being to my career. I had woven a narrative in my mind, one where love, passion, and connection belonged solely to others, leaving me in the shadows of their radiant experiences. those in their youth. Individuals who possessed an endless expanse of time at their fingertips. James tuned in, his full attention captured. As silence enveloped us, he leaned in, his fingers grazing mine in a touch that was both effortless and intentional, causing my breath to hitch in my throat. "You're not alone in that," he whispered, his voice laced with an understanding that pierced through the silence, and I placed my trust in him. By the time we left the restaurant, the city had quieted. The streets shimmered under the warm amber glow of streetlights, while the distant hum of traffic wove through the silence that enveloped us. We wandered through the fading light, the weight of unspoken words hanging between us, neither willing to let the moment slip away. At the crosswalk, he halted, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. "I don't want to rush this," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Yet, I refuse to act as if this holds no significance. My heart raced, James. He let out a soft chuckle, a hint of disbelief dancing in his eyes as he shook his head. "I understand. It's a tangled web." A soft, breathy laugh escaped my lips, that barely scratches the surface. We lingered in that moment, the city swirling around us, but it was as if we were the last two souls on Earth, suspended in our own universe. In a heartbeat, driven by instinct and a surge of adrenaline, I moved closer. James's breath caught in his throat, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. And then, at long last, I surrendered to the depths of my emotions. In that moment, words seemed unnecessary. We both understood what this meant, each moment filled with the promise of what was to come. His hand cradled the side of my face, a touch both careful and reverent, as if he were handling something precious, something that could shatter with the slightest misstep. As we finally broke apart, his forehead lingered softly against mine, a delicate connection that seemed to suspend time itself. "This alters the very fabric of our reality, doesn't it?" My voice barely escaped my lips, a mere breath in the stillness. "It does," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, as if the weight of his words could shift the very fabric of reality. "Yet perhaps that isn't as terrible as it seems." As I shut my eyes, the warmth of the moment enveloped me, sinking deep into my very being. Perhaps, just perhaps, he held the truth after all. The dawn broke, and I stirred from sleep, a tempest of emotions churning within me. Thrill coursed through the air, a palpable tension mingling with the unknown, each heartbeat echoing the weight of anticipation. The memory of last night clung to my lips, ignited by the warmth of James' touch, and the way he had gazed at me, as if I were a treasure worth every moment of anticipation. Yet, as the morning sun poured through my bedroom window, the grip of reality began to tighten once more. I was still his employee. He remained my superior. We crossed a line that could never be erased. The sudden buzz of my phone shattered the silence on the nightstand. James stood at the edge of the world, the weight of his past pressing down on him like a storm cloud ready to burst. Each breath he took was heavy with the scent of rain and the promise of change, as shadows danced around him, whispering secrets of what was yet to come. The horizon stretched out before him, a canvas of uncertainty, beckoning him to step forward into the unknown. As dawn broke, the world stirred to life. I hope there are no regrets. A faint smile tugged at the corners of my lips as I began to type my response. Myself. None. In the depths of the unknown, there lies a singular entity, you. He reacted without hesitation. James stood at the edge of the world, the wind whipping through his hair, a storm brewing in the distance. He could feel the weight of destiny pressing down on him, urging him forward into the unknown. Every heartbeat echoed with the promise of adventure, and he knew that this moment would change everything. Not a single one remained. Will our paths cross again later? My heart raced as uncertainty gripped me. Not because I lacked the desire. I did, but uncertainty loomed over what the future held for us. Is there a life beyond the confines of the office, beyond the carefully traced boundaries we had adhered to for what felt like an eternity? I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs with the weight of the moment. Me. Absolutely, but we must have a conversation before anything else. That evening, we met at a quiet park just outside the city, away from the noise and the prying eyes of the office. James stood there, a figure of anticipation, leaning against the bench with his hands buried deep in his pockets as I approached. He looked up as I approached, his expression softer than I had ever seen. He said, his voice cutting through the silence like a knife. "Hey," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the silence as I settled beside him. For a fleeting moment we remained still, captivated by the golden rays of the setting sun, as they danced through the trees, casting enchanting shadows around us. Then, I found my voice. "James, I must know the truth. What lies ahead from this point?" He released a breath, as though the question had been lingering in the air, a weight he had been anticipating. "I don't have all the answers," he confessed, a shadow of uncertainty flickering in his eyes. "Yet deep within me I can feel the weight of my desires, clear and unwavering. I know precisely what I refuse to embrace. Last night lingers in the shadows, a haunting memory that refuses to fade into oblivion." I nodded, the weight of the moment settling heavily upon me. "Neither do I." He pivoted in my direction. "Let's cast aside the constraints of rules and expectations. Let's forge a path that intertwines our destinies, whatever shape that may take." I swallowed hard. "And what of work?" He let out a low, warm chuckle that seemed to linger in the air, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. "I refuse to allow this to tarnish your future. Your efforts have been relentless, and you deserve so much more than this. Should the need arise, we will engage in a discussion about the boundaries within the office. Yet, I can't bear the thought of losing this connection, this spark, all because of mere logistics." His words sank into the depths of my being, stirring emotions I never knew existed. For an eternity, I allowed the shadows of my fear to shackle me, binding me to the familiar and the safe. I turned my back on the exhilarating unknown, convincing myself that I was too old to embrace the emotions that once ignited my spirit. Yet, there was James, standing by my side, ready to unravel the mystery together. As I extended my fingers toward him, a surge of anticipation coursed through me. "All right," I declared, my voice unwavering. "Let's embark on this journey and uncover what lies ahead." His smile radiated a sense of undeniable relief, a beacon of hope in the midst of uncertainty. As the evening faded, we shared a quiet moment, knowing things would never be the same. A revelation washed over me. This was a night that spiraled into the extraordinary, forever etched in memory. A fresh chapter unfolded before them.